So for the first time in nearly an entire decade, DC has decided to reboot the Batman series. We not only get an all new issue 1, but we get a new suit for Bruce, going back to his classic blue, to new gear and tech, to even a kind of revival of a long-awaited dead character. Though this is AJ here at The Hero Informer, and let's get into it. Now I know I said that DC is rebooting the Batman series, and that's kind of half true, because the previous one that has been going on since 2016 is currently still running alongside this new one. It is a little confusing, yeah, but this new one does have the caveat of a lot of things changing. Specifically here, as you pick up with previous Commissioner Gordon, now just a normal police officer, because he has long since retired. But even in his retirement, Jim Gordon just can't sit by and watch criminals in Gotham and the crime go up, so he enlisted back on the force. Now, instead of being Commissioner Gordon, he's just Officer Gordon nowadays. And for a pretty rare sight, we see a giant monster just leap out from one of the buildings, landing on top of a meat truck in broad daylight. Even though usually these type of things and attacks in Gotham specifically are saved for the nighttime. And with Gordon being a pretty seasoned veteran on the police force, he does the only sensible thing, calling in the backup and the experts, being none other than this new Batman, who is rocking a pretty cool and classical blue design for his suit, his cape and cowl, instead of the traditional black. But we go on to find out that that creature was none other than the killer Croc, Waylon Jones. But even him, he's different this time. He's been changing, evolving, shedding his old skin. And even as his new doctor here, who has been assigned his caretaker at Arkham Towers, she goes on to say that he's been shedding everything inside and out. He's regressing, almost childlike. But the thing about being a young child and having a child's mind is they're pretty stupid a lot of the times. Even Batman makes note of this, saying, "You're mutating man killing monster baby wanted to go out and play." Though this doctor here sees it a different way. She goes on to say that, yes, he might be capable of great violence, but he is also capable of great tenderness too. Curiosity even. Wonder. But right now he's afraid. Batman goes on to continue saying that time is running out. Have you already called the police? But you know, this lady here, even though she is new, she isn't stupid. She of course called him first, Batman. Because even she knows if the police find Killer Croc before he does, they're going to shoot to kill. Batman, on the other hand, understands nuances in the certain situations that find themselves in Gotham. So now, taking flight in his new portable Batwing suit, he flies across the city to find Killer Croc and bring him back alive. Though with all of this talk about police, we see a pretty big change with the GCPD. Yes, Commissioner Gordon stepped down, meaning there needs to be a new police commissioner, and there is one in the form of Vandal Savage himself. And you might be thinking, why is Vandal Savage, the man who has plotted on world domination and being built up in the shadows, why is he just the commissioner of Gotham of all places? Well, it's because his power, his immortality, has been fading. That is until a rock, the same kind of rock that gave him his powers in the first place, landed in Gotham, meaning for him to keep his immortality and his power, he needs to be in proximity to Gotham itself. So of course, he decided to make himself the commissioner to dictate and rule over anything he can. Put himself in a position of power. And because of this, he's now introducing private security onto the police force, tactical urban combat officers, specifically designed to bring back law and order to the streets of Gotham at all costs and by any means necessary. Now, of course, that begs the question, because before in the past, or at least at this point, the years the different vigilantes have been in Gotham, they kind of had a decent relationship with the GCPD and the police. Here, though, Vandal Savage wants the opposite of that. Even as one of the police officers asks Commissioner Savage, what do we do if we see him, if we see Batman? Vandal Savage just goes on to say, his time will come. The Batman can't outrun Gotham justice forever, which inevitably is just going to set up another Batman versus the police storyline. Though currently, Batman has way more interesting things going on. As he races down the street in his Batmobile, we see him with Alfred. Yes, the same Alfred who has been dead for almost half a decade at this point, being murdered by Bane way back when, though obviously not in the flesh by any means. He's more of a hologram, or even just a vision, or almost just a mental reenacting of Alfred all inside of Bruce's head, in which I hope is more of the first one. This is more just kind of like a programmed hologram of some sort of Alfred, because if it's the second, then that just makes Batman seem more insane than he already is. You know, talking to himself, imagining Alfred is there, in the whole 9 yards. Though eventually Batman intercepts a police call and heads over to Robinson Park, which, moving over to Robinson Park right now, and as it starts to turn evening in Gotham, that's when all of the villains and creeps come out to play. As you see a couple of girls running from some sort of gang or clan coming up to literally mutilate them with scissors. Well, they would have until Batman just rams his car into them at full speed. And yes, I know Batman doesn't kill, of course, but there's only so much you can anticipate and plan or try to minimize running your car into a group of people. Like, surely he's broken somebody's spine or or put someone to the brink of death ramming his armored tank of a car into them. Though anybody who wasn't flattened, Batman hops out and makes quick work of the creeps, as he goes on to call them. And after surveying the woman here for injuries, he finds something very off-putting, a butterfly, specifically a Morphomenelaeus, which of course are not native here to Gotham and only really belong in an exhibit not too far from here inside of the park. So if a bunch of them are let loose, that means something has broken in, which of course Batman goes to investigate, leaving his car here to defend the woman until the EMT arrives in 3 minutes. And as he gets closer to the museum where they're all held, we see him further use not only his detective work, but Alfred here in the same instance. And again, Batman is communicating to Alfred freely and openly, as if Alfred was truly there standing in the moment back alive. Though of course we know that's not the case. Eventually, Batman deduces that the trail of blood and animal carcasses that lead directly into the exhibit hall is from none other than Killer Croc. So conveniently finding what he was out to search, he moves on and in. Where yes, he is correct, he finds Killer Croc there, kind of just sitting ominously, looking up and staring off into the distance like a child, which he essentially is right now. The only problem here is there is a security guard and 2 other civilians still stuck inside of the museum. But before the security guard can call the police or any other backup, Batman intervenes, telling him not only is the gun he is holding scaring the child, but shooting at Killer Croc will only make him mad and not really do anything effective. So his best bet is to get out of here quickly and call Dr. Zeller, the new girl over at Arkham Towers, to come here instead of the police. Meanwhile, Batman decides, he's going to strike a little terror into this Killer Croc's heart, activating some new gear inside of his suit, electro-charged bat gauntlets, which is not only pretty cool, but matching the full-on blue aesthetic that this new suit is going for. Though eventually, as he makes it in, getting ready to have a showdown with Killer Croc as he has done dozens of times in the past, this time is seemingly different. Killer Croc isn't being murderous or malicious purposely, he just wants to be left alone, telling Batman that he's bad and just to go and leave him. This entire time, Batman has had an inner monologue and inner conflict over the question of, do people really change? Obviously, Croc here is changing physically and mentally even, but is it only temporarily, and soon he's going to be back to the supervillain and murderous animal that he usually is? Though Alfred, whether it be real or all in Bruce's mind, he goes on to make some valid points. He says, what if some creatures do in fact change? Even if only for this moment. Killer Croc has become something like a child alone in a violent, terrible world he cannot truly understand, drowning in fear. If it is as you say and no one truly changes, Master Bruce, then surely you know how that feels. You know how it feels to be that same child alone in a terrible and violent world. So Batman does something very surprising. No, he doesn't just start beating some sense into the childlike Killer Croc, but in a rare moment, Batman sits down with his villain and sympathizes with him, even taking his cowl off to sit face to face. Even Killer Croc in his childlike wonder being confused about this, how Batman actually has a real human face instead of the bat cowl and scary intimidation that he always has on. Though Croc, seeing this vulnerability, decides to open up a little bit, telling Batman that, sometimes he feels mean and bad, scary, hungry all the time, and how maybe he is just bad as well. Until we see the woman from earlier, the new girl on the team, the Arkham researcher who was over Killer Croc. They now arrive themselves, but not with violence, but to help Killer Croc. As the lady goes on to say that, you may think you're bad, but you only made a bad choice, Waylon. Now you can make a good choice, giving him some sort of dinosaur toy as she invites him back to Arkham Towers to finish getting the help he needs. Though before Killer Croc leaves, he turns back over to Batman, asking Bruce that sure, now that Killer Croc is getting help, who is going to help him? Who is going to help the Batman? Batman, of course, saying that, his head is okay. He doesn't need help in the same fashion that Killer Croc may. So instead, Waylon Jones here gives Batman a peace offering, giving Bruce the dinosaur toy, in which once Bruce gets back into the Batcave, he sets the toy up on the shelf as some sort of reminder, a trophy, in which, honestly, I love this. If this little part right here is an indication of what's going to be in his new Batman run, it will be awesome to see a new angle or a new twist on Batman and his other rogues. Like, yes, instead of just them fighting and beating each other to pulp for the umpteenth time, maybe he can truly rehabilitate some of them and show them a better way and actually leave lasting impact on his Batman mission, saving some of the worst criminals and having them turn out better. Though just then the emergency line rings out, and it's Tim Drake, the current Robin and Batman's sidekick at the moment. As he goes on to ask a question, is there anybody on the police force that we're friendly with these days? In the moment, him being held at gunpoint by some of the GCPD officers who explicitly have orders to go against vigilantes and turn them in and bring them in and not work with them. And I know this moment is kind of played up for tension and like, oh, will he get shot? Will he make it out the situation? But come on, you know, the Bat family have been dodging bullets and gunfire since forever. Even though they're supposed to be just peak human and not superhuman, they've routinely done crazy stuff like that. Heck, even Dick Grayson when he was 11, or however old he was when he first started, even him then was dodging gunfire with Batman and doing all sorts of crazy feats and stuff that shouldn't be possible. But hey, DC peak humans are just built different. Either way, that is the end of this issue and the end of this video. As always, this was AJ here at The Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.